This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Monday, the 20th day of July in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here is what we're tracking tonight. Chief Justice Roxanne George this afternoon dismissed the application by private citizen Masenga Jones, seeking to prevent the declaration of the final results using the votes from the recount. In her one-hour judgment, the Chief Justice ruled that the court had jurisdiction to hear the matter, and in so doing found that a recount cannot be considered to be invalid. She said the recount was endorsed by the Caribbean Court of Justice.
As noted earlier, the CCJ stated in paragraph 38 of Ali that the intention of Order 60 was to provide an open, transparent, and accountable recount of all the votes cast in those elections, end quote. It is in this context that Section 18 of the Elections Laws Amendment Act has to be read. This section states, I quote, "The Chief Election Officer shall, notwithstanding anything in any written law, be subject to the direction and control of the Commission." The fact remains that the circumstances surrounding the declaration of the results of the March 2, 2020 elections are contextual. As just concluded, given the decisions of the Court of Appeal and the CCJ, the recount cannot be considered to be invalidated, at least not at this point in time.
The Chief Justice said the recount order did not create a new election regime, and its creation followed the agreement of the President and the opposition leader, and was within the powers of the Elections Commission. Having found the order to be valid, the Chief Justice said the recount could not therefore be considered to be invalid, and the results from the recount would have overtaken the declared results by the returning officers. She agreed with the GCOM chairperson's directions to the Chief Elections Officer to compile his final report based on the votes from the recount.
The Section 84.1 declarations can no longer be considered useful. Hence, while the CEO may be expected to act independently, he cannot be a lone ranger, so to speak. I agree with this submission that Article 172(2)(b) can be construed to mean that GCOM is not to act on the advice of any person or body external to the Commission. I do not agree with the submission that the CEO has a constitutional mandate under Article 177(2)(b). It is the chairperson and GCOM that have the constitutional mandate. The CEO is a functionary of GCOM pursuant to Article 161A and Sections 2 and 7 of the RPA.
The Chief Justice said it must be made clear that a Chief Election Officer is not a lone ranger, and therefore his actions must be guided by the Elections Commission.
Section 18 is therefore not unconstitutional as being in conflict or in tension with Article 177. And as noted earlier, the CCJ also stated in paragraph 41 that any allegations as alluded to by the CEO can be addressed by way of election petition. If it is the considered opinion of the CEO that in the face of Order 60, he can produce a report based on the Section 84 declarations, then one would expect that he must be guided accordingly by GCOM. This, the evidence discloses, the chairperson has sought to do via the letters transmitted to the CEO. Thus, as determined by the CCJ, unless overturned by a court in an election petition, the only data that could be used for the declaration of the results of the elections would have to be the recount results or data.
According to the Chief Justice, given the recount order and the directions of the chairperson of the Commission, only data from the recount can be used for the compilation of the final report. The 10 declarations that were made back in March, she said, cannot be resurrected.
The 10 declarations cannot be resurrected at this point in time. In this regard, there can no longer be an impasse between the chairperson and the CEO as to the effect of Article 177(2)(b) and Section 96. For the avoidance of doubt, as stated in Section 18, the CEO is subject to the direction and control of the Commission. In this regard, I refer to paragraph 14 of the CCJ judgment, where it is noted that by Section 18, the CEO is, quote, mandated to be subject to the direction control of the Commission.
The Chief Justice was also clear in her ruling that there can no longer be an impasse at the Commission between the chairperson and the Chief Election Officer, and the Chief Election Officer is subject to the direction and control of the Commission. The attorney for the applicant has since indicated that the matter will be appealed as early as tomorrow. Meanwhile, the attorneys for the GCOM chair and the Chief Election Officer have said once a matter is before the court, the chairperson and the CEO will continue to act how they have acted in the past when matters are before the court. And Guyana has been awaiting the final results from the elections for the past 4 months. More news coming up in just a moment.
Tired of long lines? Register with MyGTT at mygtt.co.gy. That's mygtt.co.gy to view and pay your bills from anywhere. Enter to win an Amazon gift card worth $25 or a bounty voucher worth 5,000 Guyana dollars when you sign up today. GTT, do more.
GBTI is your Guyanese bank, a bank that understands every customer's unique needs, opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. At GBTI, we see you for you. Whether you're buying a new home or car, planning your next vacation or retirement, saving for your child's future, or whether you're ready to take that bold step of investing in your dream business idea, we are with you every step of the way. We hear your stories and watch you focus on your dreams as we share your aspirations. We are more than just banking. We are a family. We are part of your community. Our commitment extends way beyond the walls of our branches and is demonstrated every day in the opportunities we provide to our individual and business customers. The support, time, and commitment we give back to communities across Guyana to help improve the lives of our Guyanese families. Because we see Guyana through your eyes.
Hello, boys and girls. As you prepare to write your exams, there are a few things you will have to do each day so that you and those around you can be safe and healthy. Please remember, on the day of your exam, you must wear a mask correctly, covering your mouth and nose before entering the school compound. Wash your hands with soap and water at the entrance of the school at the sink provided for 20 seconds. Paying attention to the palm and back of your hands, between your fingers and their tips. Dry your hands with a clean tissue and dispose in the closed bin nearby. Boys and girls, your temperature will be tested by an official. Then you will go to the designated waiting area with the floor signs and markings clearly visible, standing or sitting 2 meters or 6 feet apart at all times. It is now time to start your exam. The invigilator will direct you to the examination room. All the best. Boys and girls, playing and gathering are not allowed. Parents, the Ministry of Education thanks you for the support you have given the children during the time at home. However, in the interest of everyone's well-being, you will not be allowed to enter the school compound. Parents and guardians, we are counting on your support in picking up the children promptly after their exam. Remember, the Ministry of Education will provide transport for children who are living far away that require that assistance. Please be reminded that vending outside the school's compound is prohibited. Only authorized canteen vendors with a copy of their food handler certificate and wearing a mask, food gloves, apron, hairnet, and a hat will be allowed. Always remember to wear your mask correctly, wash your hands, and stay safe. And let's win the fight against COVID-19. A message from the Ministry of Education.
The following is an important message from the Ministry of Public Health. You can prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. If you have the following symptoms: coughing, fever, or difficulty breathing, please stay home. If you don't have these symptoms, then practice social distancing. Avoid crowds. When in a group, keep a distance of at least 3 feet between yourself and other persons. Please wash your hands with soap regularly or use hand sanitizers. The Ministry of Public Health has a hotline to provide information on the coronavirus. Members of the public can call 227-4986 or 624-3067.
Welcome back. Let's tell you now that the Guyana Public Service Union's observer team, which was part of the elections and the recount, has released its report recommending that the elections be declared null and void because of the many irregularities uncovered throughout the process. The GPSU in its report on the elections also said the credibility of the elections cannot be determined. The GPSU said its observer team at the recount process observed a number of irregularities that were also witnessed by all parties present and recorded in GCOM's observation reports, as provided for by the recount order. It noted that the irregularities included a number of missing statutory documents necessary for the reconciliation and validation of ballot cards, which included missing documentation such as poll books, oaths of identity, unused ballots, and counterfoils, among others. The union believes that based on the number of anomalies that were uncovered during the recount, there might have been some collusion between polling staff at the end of voting. According to the GPSU observers, the existence of the irregularities made it difficult to identify a clear winner without being able to qualitatively pinpoint and weed out all irregular votes. Hence, even though GCOM was properly able to tabulate the votes, the extent of missing documentation and the obvious inclusion of irregular votes made it imperative that the votes had to be sanitized prior to the end product being determined as credible. The GPSU also noted that in numerous instances, it was impractical to validate votes cast due to the absence of statutory documents required for reconciliation. The union said its position is that the entire process was severely compromised and the information generated from the recount process could not be adequately used to declare a winner. It believes strongly that the 2nd of March elections should be negated and steps should be taken immediately to sanitize the list of electors and new elections called as soon as possible. The Guyana Public Service Union was an accredited local observer for the elections and has observed elections in Guyana for more than 20 years. Turning now to the aviation sector in the age of COVID-19. When Guyana reopens its international airports in August, all incoming passengers will be required to have a COVID-19 PCR test completed with a negative result before their travel. In guidelines prepared by the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, the body said a PCR COVID-19 test will have to be taken within 7 days prior to travel. The negative test result is to be presented to the airline at check-in, then to health officials upon their arrival in Guyana. Children below the age of 12 years traveling with parents or other authorized adults are not required to present the test once the accompanying adult is recorded as COVID-19 negative. Additionally, all passengers will be required to wear face masks, observe the health and safety requirements in the airport and on board the aircraft, and subject themselves to temperature tests and other evaluations if deemed necessary by health officials upon their arrival. They also must not behave in a manner that interferes with crew members or their functions. In terms of the airports, the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority said airport operators are responsible for ensuring that the airport environment, including all public and restricted areas of the terminal and ancillary facilities, are kept safe and hygienic through appropriate measures and practices to safeguard against the spread of COVID-19 and any other communicable diseases. In collaboration with the airlines, airport operators are required to schedule flights in such a way that there will be no overcrowding of the airport's facilities. According to the civil aviation body, all aircraft operators are similarly responsible for ensuring that their operations are conducted safely through the implementation of safe health and hygiene measures. Operators are responsible for ensuring that each passenger, prior to entering the airport terminal to check in for flights, is wearing a face mask and be subjected to a temperature check. Passengers' hand luggage and checked baggage are to be sanitized prior to entering the check-in area, and they must be briefed on any special or specific travel restrictions or requirements. Passengers will be allowed to remove their masks for a short period for identification purposes and for eating or drinking or for taking medication, the report said. Guyana's international airports have been closed to regular passenger flights since March. However, special authorized flights and cargo and repatriation flights have been allowed. The reopening of the airports will be done in phases. Well, as the number of coronavirus cases in Guyana continues to climb, the Public Health Ministry has been intensifying its efforts in the hinterland region to curb the spread. Many of the new cases are in regions 1 and 9. There was one new case recorded in the past 24 hours, but on Saturday and Sunday, health officials recorded 60 new cases. Today, Deputy Chief Medical Officer Dr. Karen Gordon Boyle said residents in the bordering communities with Venezuela and Brazil remain very vulnerable to imported cases, and as such, they need to take precautions.
Fellow Guyanese, the ministry has been intensifying its efforts in the hinterland region, recognizing that our vast stretch of borders leaves our residents in those bordering regions very vulnerable to imported cases. We also need to keep a watchful eye on our movement within and between our communities. And I am talking directly to those persons who knowingly have been close to positive persons. Our health workers are working assiduously to help to contain the spread of this deadly disease. Let us be appreciative of their Herculean efforts. We plead once again with all of you, notably in the areas alluded to above, to cooperate with the health workers so that we can surmount this hurdle and arrest the upward trend, which presently seems to be elusive. It is critical, however, that we monitor in the coming weeks the evolution of incidents in all regions.
The rising cases come even as moves are forging ahead with the reopening of the country and the easing of some of the curfew measures. The Deputy Chief Medical Officer today said persons should not take the coronavirus for granted, even as they return to their jobs.
Friends, our relaxation of measures is in effect, and I wish to address those who are returning to work on rotation. It is suggested that all workplaces, private and public, appoint a focal point for COVID-19, who will be responsible for ensuring that all employees adhere to the workplace guidelines and that sensitization training sessions are regularly organized for staff. These are suggested occupational safety and health measures that can be taken to protect all employees.
Guyana currently has 155 active cases of the coronavirus, with the majority of those cases in regions 1 and 7. 8 years after the police killing of 3 Linden protesters and months after a lawsuit was filed against the state of Guyana, the state has decided to settle a court case to the tune of $77 million. Under the settlement, the estate of Ron Somerset will receive $27 million, while the estates of the other 2 men, Shemroy Bouet and Alan Lewis, will receive $25 million each. The 3 Linden martyrs, Ron Somerset, Shemroy Bouet and Alan Lewis, were shot dead on the 18th of July 2012 at the Wismar-Mackenzie Bridge by police officers during a protest over a proposed increase in electricity costs. A commission of inquiry was conducted into the deaths. While the commission found that the Guyana police force was responsible for the deaths, it failed to name specific ranks as being responsible. No member of the force was ever charged, though it was found that only the police were armed on the day of the protests. That 2012 Commission of Inquiry awarded $7 million in total to the families of the 3 young men, with 2 of the families being awarded $3 million each and the family of the youngest of the 3 being awarded just $1 million. The Commission had made it clear that the financial award ought not to be seen as compensation. Since then, there have been calls on the government, the previous PPP, and the current APNU AFC to increase the award of the Commission. When that was not done, Attorney Darren Wade moved ahead with a lawsuit earlier this year. In the lawsuit, Attorney Darren Wade argued on behalf of the relatives that the right to life and the fundamental right to liberty of the 3 men were breached by the police that acted on behalf of the state. On the police blotter, a businessman remains in custody as the probe continues into the gunning down of 47-year-old contractor Kisundat Premsuk. Investigators are working on the theory that the murder was an ordered execution. The businessman who is in custody is suspected to be the one who ordered the hit. A woman who was also initially held by investigators has since been released on bail. The contractor was gunned down at the Durban Street construction site as he was having a conversation with 2 other persons. Police investigators have obtained a full video recording of the murder, which was captured on surveillance cameras in the area. The lone gunman could be seen running across to the contractor and firing several shots in his direction as the other 2 persons dashed for cover. The gunman ran away from the scene. Investigators believe he could be identified from the video recording, and so they have launched a search for that suspected gunman. Across the Region is coming up next.
We give thanks for real. You spend all that money on your watch. How much much time you spend with your son? So much money in the club. How much you spend with the ones you love? The simple things are your blessings.
Cheese, please. Remember Tyrus Riley, this one we aim to please. The music will never ease. Cheese, please.
Are you washing your hands correctly? Here are some tips on when and how to wash your hands. Step 1. Wet your hands with clean water. Step 2. Then apply soap. Step 3. For 10 to 15 seconds, lather your palms together. Always remember to pay attention to your fingers, especially your nails and tips. And don't forget the back and between your fingers. Step 4. Rinse hands with clean water for about 20 seconds. Step 5. Dry hands with a clean paper towel or tissue.
But when should you wash your hands? After using the toilet, before and after eating, preparing or handling uncooked food, after playing with pets or caring for animals, after sneezing and coughing or blowing your nose, before and after changing babies or caring for others.
Frequent hand washing or using a hand sanitizer with alcohol as an alternative will remove viruses and bacteria from your hands.
A message from the Ministry of Public Health in collaboration with PAHO WHO.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right. Walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong. Be the one to live right.
They've made a positive impact on the heavy-duty transportation industry in Guyana since they've arrived. Guyanese are amazed at their power, durability, efficiency, and superior handling capabilities. These are brand new trucks, manufactured in partnership with German, Italian, and French companies. They have a powerful reputation for operating under very adverse Guyanese conditions and come with full after-sales service and spare parts. They're the most sought-after trucks today, with over 500 units in Guyana, and they're available in over 100 countries, including South America and the Caribbean. Be smart. Buy brand new ST Howo trucks today. Call 608-4998 and arrange for an inspection at ST Truck Guyana Incorporated, Block B, Public Road, Covenant, East Bank, Demerara.
Across the region right now, the Bahamas has closed its borders to international commercial flights from the U.S., the country has announced. The move comes due to what officials call the continued increase in COVID-19 cases in the U.S., as well as an uptick in cases in the Bahamas. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced a decision, which takes effect from this Wednesday at midnight. Outgoing flights will be permitted to accommodate any current visitors scheduled to return to the U.S. after Wednesday, the government said. The move includes a closure to commercial vessels carrying passengers from the U.S., along with the immediate cessation of Bahamas Air outgoing flights to the U.S. The Bahamas will be continuing to allow private flights and charters from the U.S., however, along with pleasure crafts and yachts. Travelers from Canada, the United Kingdom, and the European Union are exempt from the emergency order. All visitors from these countries, along with U.S. private flights and boaters, will be required to present a negative COVID-19 PCR test from an approved lab taken no more than 10 days prior to their travel. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines government has hinted at the possibility of suspending flights from the U.S. after the island recorded 12 cases of the coronavirus after reopening its borders to international flights. The authorities said that of the 12 cases associated with the American Airlines Flight 945, which brought 155 people to St. Vincent, only one person was not a passenger in the flight. Another American Airlines flight, also from Miami, arrived on Saturday, and health officials said that 4 cases of COVID-19 were detected among the passengers. The National Emergency Management Organization in St. Vincent said on Sunday night that there were 21 active cases of coronavirus in the country, including 2 cases the origins of which health officials were unsure about and were investigating. And finally tonight, international news. A coronavirus vaccine developed by the University of Oxford appears safe and triggers an immune response. Trials involving over 1,000 people show the injection led to them making antibodies and T cells that can fight coronavirus. The findings are hugely promising, the BBC reports, but it is still too soon to know if this is enough to offer protection, and larger trials are on the way. The UK has already ordered 100 million doses of the vaccine. The vaccine is being developed at unprecedented speed. It is made from a genetically engineered virus that causes the common cold in chimpanzees. It has been heavily modified, first so it cannot cause infections in people, and also to make it look more like coronavirus. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting.